My name is Francesca. I'm the Technical Community Manager of Open Source at Stanford, and I am thrilled to be presenting the Maintainers and Contributors Roundtable, which I manage, and has grown to be one of what I consider Open Source at Stanford's flagship initiatives. When we started this Maintainers and Contributors Roundtable, or you might hear me call it MNCR for short. It was very open-ended, and we didn't know if we would have one, two, if we would have 10. And I am actually excited to say that we are hosting our 19th meeting in 5 days or so. So it seems to be one of the core initiatives of our OSPO and hopefully is working. And we have a member here today who can talk a little bit more about their experience. So just to set the agenda for the presentation, I'll spend a couple of minutes just talking about what open source at Stanford is and what we're up to before diving specifically into the MNCR. First, the context that we are operating in and what is the problem that we are trying to solve. Then I'll spend some time talking about how we built the MNCR. This is going to cover some of the initial outreach and the earlier stages of our initiative, and then talking more specifically about how individual meetings are run, how we decide what is discussed during the meetings, and a little bit about some of the outcomes that we've experienced. And then I am very grateful that a member of our MNCR has actually agreed to talk to all of you about their experience. It's one thing for me to say that this is a great initiative. I think it's a totally different thing to have someone who's actually experiencing it and participating as a member to say it. So very excited to go through all of this with you today. So open source at Stanford is the Stanford University OSPO, and I think it's important to actually locate us in the vast structure that is Stanford University. So we are one of the Center for Open and Reproducible Science, or known as CORES, C-O-R-E-S, one of that center's initiatives, which means that we are very much rooted in open science, in an open science context for the development of open source software for research. This is also important because our Center for Open and Reproducible Science is a faculty-led center led by two faculty members, Professor Russ Poldrek, who is also the faculty director of our OSPO, and Professor Maya Mather, who is the director for CORES. And CORES is located within Stanford Data Science, which is located within Stanford's Dean of Research. And so by situating our OSPO in a very research-centric way, that means we are particularly focused on coordinating, supporting, and facilitating the development of open source software within the research ecosystem. And as the technical community manager, for me, more specifically, I am very people-oriented, and so supporting the development of OSS within research is very much for me supporting researchers and providing value to researchers on campus. So if I had to describe our OSPO in sort of three main descriptors, it is that we are faculty-led, research-centric, and highly community and therefore people-driven. And I also want to give a shout out to the executive director, Zach Chandler, who is a very active member at Curious and who many of you know, although he is unfortunately unable to be here today. So what is open source at Stanford doing? One of the very first things that we set out to do was try to capture the landscape of open source activity on campus. And one of the best ways we could do that was by developing a projects registry where we list notable open source software projects labs developing open source software, open data projects, platforms and utilities that help the development of open source software. And right now we have just over 100 entries, which is a great progress from when we started with around 50. We run the Maintainers and Contributors Roundtable, which I will speak in more detail about through the rest of the presentation. We invite people for one-on-one consultations, or we invite lab members to approach us and ask specific questions. This can range from things like, how do I get a DOI for my software package? How do I make my software citable? Which is actually a consultation I did a couple of days ago, to broader things such as what are my options for more sustainable funding for my open source project. So we invite people to approach us and have those detailed discussions. We award an open source software prize to exemplary projects every year, and recently an Open Source at Stanford Community Prize to individual community members. And this academic year in particular, we are trying to scale up our trainings and resources. One of the ways that we're doing that is by offering workshops. You may have seen a previous Curious Deep Dive with PyOpenSci, so a nonprofit focused on scientific Python. We are the first academic OSPO to partner with PyOpenSci, and we ran a successful Python packaging workshop with them just a month ago. But for the purpose of today, I'll focus on the MNCR. So taking a bit of a step backwards and providing the context of the landscape of open source software development at Stanford and at other universities that may be interested in developing their own MNCR. What are the existing conditions at your university that sort of facilitate this this initiative? Firstly, universities produce large volumes of research outputs across every discipline. And in many cases, these labs are developing open source software for their research. And so this can be within various schools at the university, like the School of Engineering, School of Humanities and Sciences, School of Medicine, your business school, etc. And these research outputs can also come from various research initiatives like Stanford Data Science, or a research institute like the Institute for Human-Centered AI. And so we're under the assumption that there are large volumes of research outputs across many disciplines, but these research outputs are scattered across labs and departments, and there are many developers behind each of these software projects who are also scattered across labs and departments. And so it is a very decentralized landscape that we're painting right now. The other thing that is important to note is that each of these people, so I've sort of denoted the maintainer or core contributor, the developer behind each of these open source software projects in these blue circles. So these people are of different levels of expertise, have different experiences in the development of open source software, and diverse disciplinary backgrounds that have their own standards and norms for research and for open source software. And in many cases, you'll notice that there can be projects that are staffed up to like 4 or 5 that have a team of developers, but in many cases, maintainers in labs are isolated in their roles, denoted by these singular blue circles, and do most things for their package, which is true for most small packages. And a large portion of the research that we support fit this criteria of a sole maintainer or a couple of maintainers who are pretty much doing everything for their software package. These labs also have walls around them. I think this is a pretty common experience where labs have walls around them, maybe unknowingly because these very busy researchers are deep into their work and maintaining multiple roles across their software, across the development of their software package, and these create these invisible walls around them where knowledge is siloed and personal experiences are siloed. So one thing that we really wanted to address was how to escape the boundaries of these labs with knowledge sharing, shared experience, and fostering connection. So this is the context that we are operating in at a very large university with many research outputs, and a lot of that research is rather decentralized. Specifically for a maintainer, there is also a level of isolation experienced when you are the sole maintainer in your lab doing most things by yourself. So what are we trying to solve? So you've heard me say this word a bunch just now. The isolation that maintainers of open source software projects experience. Many of these researchers are working in silos without peer support. Knowledge gaps. So researchers may be looking to improve their open source development skills. In some cases, researchers are very much scientists first or experts in their domain first, and then put in this position where they also are developing an open source package for their research. And so trying to fill in some knowledge gaps for people looking to improve their skills. Disconnection. So trying to come up with a central way that doesn't yet exist for maintainers and core contributors to learn about each other's work. And to fulfill this missing community by creating a space for sharing best practices and pain points, and also personal experiences to build connection. So in short, if I had to summarize what the vision for the maintainers and contributors roundtable is, it's to create a vibrant community of practice where members collectively gain knowledge and exchange ideas connected to their shared interests in open source software. And of course, in the university setting, this typically means open source software for research. So this is our sort of grand vision for what the MNCR is. Before going into how we actually built the MNCR at Stanford, I do want to point out two references slash further reading slash pieces of inspiration, situated learning and the social life of information. Zach in his design was very purposeful about interpreting a community of practice as a learning community of practice, or a vibrant learning community where members collectively work towards gaining knowledge connected to their shared interests. And this was very much inspired by these resources. So how did we get started? I think one of the most common questions that I get asked when I talk about the maintainers and contributors roundtable, either from colleagues, other staff members, or from members themselves, is how did we find this membership pool? And this is where having open source at Stanford situated within a faculty-led center, cores, and also being very research-centric came in handy because at the start, we very purposefully tapped into our faculty networks and our OSPO projects registry. You can see that I've grabbed some project cards and placed them on the right to give you a visual of what our projects registry looks like. We tapped into our faculty networks and OSPO projects registry to reach out to PIs of labs with open source projects and invite their maintainers and core contributors to a meeting. So it was very much the process of what do we know is being developed, the assumption that there are very skilled and engaged people behind the development of that software, and inviting those people to join our meeting and participate as members of this maintainers and contributors roundtable. So at the start, it was very much looking at PIs of labs and then asking them if they had any interested lab members and then reaching out to these members directly. We also promoted through an OSPO mailing list, and so this comprised of these PIs who are listed in our projects registry and some people who had found our OSPO and requested to be part of the mailing list or be updated on our activities. So we promote the MNCR at the start of every quarter, or for other schools in a semester system at the start of every semester to join our MNCR. And we promote it across our affiliated communities like CORES and Stanford Data Science. And at the very beginning, meeting number one, almost 2 years ago now, we started with 13 members. So our projects registry, as I mentioned, has 100 plus entries now, and at the very beginning had around maybe slightly less than 50, and we only started with 13 members at meeting number one. And so it was very much us trying to temper our expectations, but also being very welcoming to anyone who was curious about this new initiative and anyone who was interested in meeting other people in similar roles, albeit working on different research projects. When we look at the format of the meetings themselves, this was also a very conscious decision to make meetings monthly, on a monthly cadence, 1 hour during lunchtime. And the reason we purposely scheduled meetings during lunchtime was so that we could provide people who attended in person with food. So for any member, if you come in person, we will provide lunch to thank you for coming during your lunch hour, but two, having lunch around the table does create a sense of community and also creates sort of that more relaxed and safer environment. We also provide Zoom options. So the room that we have this in, it has some Zoom capabilities, and that has allowed people to be flexible and means that in any given month, someone has the option to join from wherever they are or with whatever schedule they have. The monthly cadence is also important because these are we acknowledge that these are very busy people. We don't want it to take up a significant portion of their time that they would not feel is valuable to them. And it gives them enough time between meetings to also connect asynchronously, which we facilitate through a dedicated Slack channel just for MNCR members. Each meeting is organized around a core discussion topic or theme or a specific project. As you can imagine, 1 hour goes by very quickly, and so in a more informal setting, maybe the discussion topic of the day is what are your project updates, and that can pretty much eat up the entire hour. In other cases, a core discussion topic might be how do I try to get my software package citable, or how do I publish in something like JOS, or a specific project. You may come with a project that you are going to be presenting at a conference soon and want to workshop your presentation at the meeting. So the hour goes by quick, so having each meeting organized around a single discussion topic or a single project or a single theme is key to providing value within that limited time frame. One interesting component to our membership model is that we preserve a no faculty rule. So we reach out to faculty members and let them know of the existence of our MNCR, but we actually invite the maintainers and core contributors specifically and not their PIs or not faculty members. This is very much done with the underlying concept of people behave differently when the boss is in the room, which I think we have experienced or observed and is and we've found to be true in the context of our MNCR. We absolutely want to provide this as a very safe and open learning space for maintainers and contributors. And so preserving a no faculty rule has allowed us to keep that sort of safe atmosphere. And we we adopt Chatham House rules for confidentiality. Again, doubling down on that idea that these meetings are intended to be a safe and open space. We maintain a pretty casual and conversational tone, and we find that encouraging our members to adopt a check your expertise at the door mentality has fostered a very productive learning environment. So check your expertise at the door, meaning that some of the members have been working on their projects for a decade, a decade plus, and are very well versed in specific open source, technical practices. Other members are experts at their given field. Maybe it is on machine learning, maybe it is on a computational science, but having them check their expertise at the door again has created just a safer and learning environment where people are very much open to receiving new information and also sharing information in a respectful way. And it is important to note that meetings are facilitated by an OSPO staff member. In most cases, that is me. While we do prioritize the voices of the members in the room, and in particular when a member is presenting on a core discussion topic or their specific project, we absolutely highlight their voice. But meetings are facilitated by an OSPO staff member. Firstly, because it requires effort to actually plan the meetings, and we don't want to put that that effort or that responsibility on the MNCR members. And so the process that I personally go through is setting a topic 7 to 10 days in advance, and then sending out invitations 7 days in advance, sending out reminders, and then conducting individual outreach to certain members if they are particularly suited for the discussion topic, or if they have requested to present, and meeting with them individually on that. It also is a great opportunity to promote other OSPO activities. This is one of the bonuses that I have found in running these meetings and sort of having that captive audience of maintainers and contributors, the people who we would want to engage with our OSPO activities in the first place. Being the one facilitating the meeting means that I am able to promote other OSPO activities and try to engage members in some of the other great work that our OSPO is doing. And having the meeting facilitated by sort of the external member, so the OSPO staff member, ensures that the discussion is tailored to the people in the room, and that all voices are welcome, rather than having specific, 2-3 people just sidebar for an hour. In terms of the topic selection and delivering value, it is our core philosophy that the OSPO is responsible for continuously providing value to this group. And so we always establish this vote with your feet approach where please only attend the meeting to the extent that it is valuable to you or your work. And that is enough feedback for us to work on providing value to you. So it is very much on me and on Zach to figure out ways that this MNCR can continue to provide value to its members. We also found that providing value leads to organic growth, and that organic growth in this university landscape is highly effective. And so where we have one person, join us at an initial meeting, they will then tell maybe 3 of their lab members to come at the next meeting, and then that person knows someone from their department also working on an open source project to come to our meeting. And so providing value leads to organic growth. We publicize a rotating list of discussion topics on our OSPO MNCR page. In the interest of time, I won't show the page, but you can look it up on opensource.stanford.edu. So we publicize a rotating list of discussion topics so that someone who has never engaged with us before but sees this topic can feel free to email our OSPO citing this rotating list of topics. And the topics focus on promoting social learning and peer connection. We also, very importantly, extract relevant topics from members via our MNCR Slack channel. So we frequently ask members to upvote or downvote potential topics, and at any given point, we have at least 3 topics in the backlog that we can have members upvote or downvote for the upcoming meeting. And actually, in part inspired by the Curious Deep Dives, we always open the door to project deep dives where members who are working on something in particular can come and go deep into their project, and we try to match them to the expertise of other members of the MNCR who would be able to address some of their pain points or some of the topics discussed in the project deep dives. So I guess thank you, Curious, for the inspiration in part for that as well. I included a quick collaboration case study, and I will run through this a little quickly in the interest of time, but please feel free to ask me more questions about this. So to illustrate how the OSPO and the MNCR in particularly might provide value to this group, we did have a case where there were 2 projects being developed actually just rooms apart, feet apart in the same building, who had no idea of each other's existence, but more relevantly, no idea that they were developing both developing evaluation frameworks for language models. So these are 2 projects that basically came up at an MNCR about evaluation frameworks and discovered the existence of each other's projects, and discovered not only the existence of each other's projects, but an opportunity for the projects to integrate with each other. And so all of this was done through the open source contribution cycle and resulted in a public leaderboard in one of the projects that was built through the open source contribution cycle and integration from when this MNCR meeting brought to light that 2 similar projects had this great opportunity to collaborate. So one of the ways that we can provide value is making other projects aware of similar projects and having that lead to opportunities of collaboration. So to answer the question, did it work? In many ways, we believe that it did. Going back to the uh, question of what are we trying to address? Isolation, we addressed with community, these community building exercises by fostering peer connections in this dedicated space. We tried to address knowledge gaps by prioritizing knowledge sharing during these meetings. And we try to address disconnection and missing community by actually building a network of open source software developers on campus who are aware of each other's work, who have a means of communicating, and who can actually pursue new collaborations. And some bonus, some bonus consequences. I would say a big one for me is that the MNCR has allowed members to build a stronger relationship with the OSPO itself. And because we have this platform to actually directly speak to the audience we want to tap into, we've been able to engage MNCR members in other initiatives, sustain participation. So we maintain an active alumni group, people who have moved on from Stanford who were once in our MNCR, we are still in contact with and invite back to meetings. And consistent growth, organic referral is highly effective in growing our membership. But as I said earlier, it isn't just about me telling you about how great our OSPO is. We started with 13 members and we've grown it to over 50 members spanning a vast range of disciplines and roles. I'm very pleased to introduce one of our MNCR members today, Eliana, who is a computational data scientist at the Stanford Doerr School of Sustainability Center for Computation and working on a number of open source works. And I'll pass the microphone to Eliana.
Thank you so much, Francesca. It's great to be here. So I'm a computational data scientist at Stanford. As Francesca mentioned, there's quite a series of organization at Stanford. So I'm at the Doerr School of Sustainability. And I work on various open source projects, including building and maintaining both Flip Inside and Bedfinder. These are projects that are generally located within the AI for geospatial learning and analysis. And today I'm here to talk to you about my experience in MNCR. So I think on the next slide, yeah, thank you, Francesca. Um, there's some questions that Francesca asked me to answer today. And so I'm just going to run through some of these, but I anticipate maybe discussing them more later in the question section as well. So I found MNCR through Stanford Data Science, which Francesca mentioned is where the OSPO is located at Stanford. And I joined because I maintain open source packages. And in general, I'm very passionate about open source and open science. I help run some general communities outside of Stanford. And I thought it would be useful to be part of a Stanford specific community. And indeed, it has been. It's really a wonderful community that Francesca and Zach run together. And so joining MNCR has been very helpful to me in my project and role at Stanford because it's given me community. Francesca had a really great illustration of the way that uh, kind of open source work can get siloed in universities. And I think what I really enjoy about MNCR is it transcends the typical boundaries of specific schools within a university or specific departments within a university, and has helped me meet other folks on campus who are at really a peer stage to what I'm doing. And so even though the particular research focus of their work might be different, their day-to-day kind of work goals are very similar to mine. And I would say that probably also answers the value of having this MNCR be a research-centric group. Really, I think in doing so, that creates a very peer level space that transcends also those maybe typical tiering of whether or not someone is a student, a postdoc, or a staff scientist into really what stage is someone at in their maintenance and building of packages and how might we learn from, collaborate, and assist each other. As far as the MNCR being a dedicated learning space, that's been really great. Francesca just gave so many great slides, and I think one of the things that Francesca mentioned was this idea of creating kind of collaborations, not just on our scientific work, our research work, our software development work, but also collaborations in open source and open science kind of beyond. And so I myself have built some collaborations. Francesca and Zach and I will actually be collaborating on a series of workshops around reproducibility in HPC environments over the coming year. But also through MNCR, I also joined both PyOpenSci and USRSC, and I have been an active participant in both of those spaces. And those are two spaces that I learned about through MNCR. And so when I think about what universities and spaces might be interested in if they start their own MNCR, uh, I think I really just recommend consulting with Francesca and Zach. This has been a great space. I've really enjoyed being a part of it. I look forward to continue being a part of it. I think they've done a great job of creating a space that is uh, welcoming to networking and discussion and also active learning and active growth in the packages and the software that we all maintain. So yeah, thanks for having me, Francesca, and great to be here and meet everybody.
Thanks, Ellie. And we are very happy to have you as a member of the MNTR, but also a member of our broader open source at Stanford community. And to sort of summarize or bring us back full circle to the very beginning, what was the vision when we first imagined the MNCR? It was to create this vibrant community of practice where members collectively gain knowledge and exchange ideas connected to developing open source software for their research. And where we are now, we believe the MNCR has allowed us to create this supportive and engaged learning community that enables knowledge sharing beyond the lab boundary, alleviates the isolation that many maintainers may feel, particularly of small or very specialized packages, and a platform for them to foster connection.